What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to our. Well, actually, I should say welcome to our first edition of the remake of the Mike Rock Show. I think for the past year or two, we decided to change the name to Mike Rock Uncensored because the idea was I wanted all of us, I wanted to encourage all of us to speak our minds, to have our own opinions, to not be afraid to say those things that needed to be said. But I'm starting to realize and understand that a lot of people, no matter how much you tell them it's okay, and how important it is that people do speak their minds and can either disagree or agree to disagree. A lot of people aren't going to do it. Until it's either too late to do anything about it, or they just or enough people come together and say, enough is enough. Good morning, Mr. Andrew. Moving forward with the show. So, we're going to give you guys, I've had a lot of time to think about how we need to grow this community, why we need to grow this community, and I don't know if I just said it, but the how part. And that's really important, man. I love talking to people in our live chats and stuff when we do our live streams, but a lot of people who are going to be joining in the future aren't really going to know who we are. And so it's important that we get the message across. So I do apologize in advance if I don't always get the highs out right away. I try to give shout outs where I can. We're going to be a lot more organized with what we say and what we do. But in that process, I have to admit that I have a lot of growing to do myself. I've just been so random with everything that needs to be said, and in a way, that's a good thing because at least you know if you guys are hearing it randomly from me, you know that I'm not, this isn't scripted. This isn't something that's coming from other people or people trying to tell me what to say and do. And that's kind of what this particular show is about because it's getting ridiculous. If you don't already know, if you guys don't know who Tucker Carlson is, he's under a real threat of being arrested by the American government because he's chosen to try to have conversations with anybody, everybody. And right now, the conversations that he's having is with I don't know who the individual or individuals are, but I know it has something to do with this Iran war, and it's the reason why I say it's gotten ridiculous is because I remember when we I remember why I voted for Donald Trump. I remember why I voted for the right, and you can get mad at me all you want to, but it was the left's fault. It was all of these woke ideologies, and when we left that platform of common sense, and I just felt like, we've come to a place that needs to change. And it wasn't necessarily, I don't know Donald Trump. I'm the type of person where I don't judge a person based on what everybody else says. I'm willing to actually do the homework and be educated on why I choose to like or dislike a particular individual. And again, get mad at me all you want, but there's a lot of puppets in this world who have decided that they're just going to go ahead and hate a man because the government and the media tells them to. They have no reason to hate a particular individual other than what they see on the news. And then they've got the gall and the audacity to admit later on that they can't trust anything that the media and the news feeds them. And that just kind of helped me come to the conclusion that you don't hate the particular individual for who you think they are, for the lies that you've been fed. You've chosen to believe the lies. You've chosen to feed into these false narratives because that person doesn't support your personal agendas, whether it be the gay community, the black community, whatever, because you've been led to believe that this individual doesn't support your personal belief, your personal agendas. You're going to hate him on on a much larger scale because you're not going to get what you want. Never mind that it's best for what we want, what we need as a country, which is a wake up call at this point. Never mind all that, right? Because he's not feeding into your personal agenda, you're going to choose to hate the man and you're going to choose to believe the media and the government when it's convenient. And I have to admit and that I was also guilty in a way of listening, not necessarily to the media. I don't listen to shit that they have to say because I've learned and I've accepted the fact that they don't sell you the news, they don't sell you the truth, they sell you narratives. Whoever the highest bidder is, whoever's the most popular or the most powerful, they're going to sell you those narratives because that's how they get paid and they don't want to get in trouble. I mean, it's not that I don't understand it, I just simply don't agree with it because it's taking away from who we are as a people. And even though you've got people yelling in your ear that, hey, we support you, and even the people who claim to support your agendas, it's not that they support your agenda, they just don't give a shit enough about your agenda to make it an issue. And if they support an agenda that they don't give a shit about, they know that they're going to get your vote in return so that they can remain in power. That's not just a left thing. I'm learning that that's also a thing on the right now. And an example of that, proof of that is what's going on with this individual Tucker Carlson. If you don't already know him, I have mad respect for Tucker Carlson. People like Tucker Carlson, lesser known individuals like a Dave Smith, but we've also got Candace Owens, we've got Alex Jones, who people call a conspiracy nut for years and simply just didn't understand that that man was right or wrong, was fighting for an America First agenda. I have mad respect for people who are actually fighting for what's right in this country and not just saying that they are so that they can achieve some kind of ulterior motive. And I voted for Donald Trump and his administration because not necessarily because I know enough about Donald Trump, but it was because of the promises that were made that he all of a sudden doesn't seem to be following through on. That doesn't mean that I'm just going to vote left because I don't necessarily agree with his agenda right now. I'm not wishy washy like that. I'm consistent. My beliefs are consistent, and I refuse to feel like I need to stick with an individual simply because I voted for them the first time or I voted for them at a particular time. I really think that what's going on, not necessarily with the war, I'm going to tell you my thoughts. And sorry again, I've got everything in my head that needs to be said, but a lot of times there's so much going on and a lot of things that we need to get out there that when we do a live stream, it's kind of hard for me to stay focused. But a lot of people are. I don't understand why they haven't made a bigger news about what's going on with this Iran war. I can't remember a single time when we've been at war with a big enough country like Iran that we've just chosen not to make it big enough news. Like, why isn't it more in the news? We're talking about censoring an individual like Tucker Carlson when we're actually at war and we're divided about whether we agree with this war or not. A lot of wars have been supported by the American people because they felt like it strengthened us as a country. There was a purpose for us being there, and now we're at a point to where a lot of people are angry because they feel like the only reason we're there is because we have either been blackmailed by the government of Israel, not the people of Israel, but the government of Israel, or we're just there to support Israel and Israel first agenda. It really has nothing to do with America. And I don't disagree with that. I don't think anybody in their right mind will say that Iran needs to continue in power the way that they have been. They are a terrorist organization as a country. There is proof out there. I'm not going to say I know everything, but I know that there's been a lot of terrorist organizations that have been funded by the Iranian government. Everybody knows that the Ayatollah is a dictator in and of and maybe dictator is not the right word, but I think all of those things, dictator, communist, all of them, they're all along the lines of something a government that we don't want to be a part of. And that's the reason why we try to label people like Donald Trump and other government and officials as being tyrannical because we know that is the ultimate no. We know that's where we don't want to be, so we choose to try to define the people we don't agree with as tyrannical, as a dictator, as a Nazi, as all of these things, so that we immediately have a bad taste in our mouth for who they are. And to me, that's wrong as well. But anyways, back to the Iranian government. No one disagrees that they don't need to be in power. What I disagree with is the fact that we are in it for the wrong reasons right now. Maybe no, they shouldn't have nuclear wars. But my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, the reason why we got involved with this war, part of the reason why we got involved with this war is because Israel basically told the United States or told Donald Trump that, hey, if you don't help us out with this war, we're afraid that we're going to have to use a nuclear weapon in order to defend ourselves. And so, of course, and again, I'm not defending Donald Trump. I think we are in this war for the wrong reasons. Period. That's my opinion. But to be blackmailed, essentially, which is what that is, into feeling like we have to go to war, we have to get involved with this. We have to set aside our America First agenda and go in here for Israel just so that they don't use a nuclear war on a country that has ties with bigger allies like China and Russia. That's blackmail. That's not an America First agenda. And that's what the people don't agree with. The people also don't agree with the fact that again, this is not we're doing so many things right now that are not considered an America First agenda. It has nothing to do with doing better on behalf of the people. The lies that are being told, oh, the economy is getting better. I believe it. I do the education, I do the homework. I understand that the unfortunately, we're in an unfortunate this capitalistic um society that we live in. I understand it enough to know that the benefits trickle down. So the first people to benefit from it are the richer folks who have created that change in the economy. And then once they benefit, then those benefits trickle down to the people who need it most. So we're not seeing the results of those benefits, and it sucks. I know a lot of people are struggling. I, for one, I'm not struggling as much as I used to be because of the work that I've put in the past year, which is what a lot of which is part of what I want to encourage other people to start doing for themselves, to stop crying about what they don't have and start working towards the things that they want in life because you can achieve it. We at least live in a society right now where if you're willing to put in the work, which a lot of people aren't willing to put in the work, but if you're willing to do that, then you can get the results and stuff that you're looking after. You just have to stop crying about it. And but again, it's not the war itself that people can't get behind. It's who the war is for that we can't get behind. And that's not and before anybody because y they wanna say that this is a jab at, maybe I'm anti-Semitic now because I'm willing to speak out and say that something is wrong, and to me, that's ridiculous as well, and this is the purpose behind why we're doing the Mike Rock Show all over again, because how do you call it anti-Semitic? I'm just throwing this out from my own perspective. But how do you sit up there and say that someone like me is anti-Semitic because I'm speaking out against the government of Israel because I disagree with something that's going on with the government of Israel? But it's okay for me to speak badly and poorly against my own country. I can say bad things against America all day, but the minute I say something against the country of Israel, the government of Israel, all of a sudden I'm anti Semitic. There's something very wrong with that. There's also something very wrong when a lot of us voted for the Republican Party because we were tired of the censorship. We were tired of being forced or being of our opinions or opinions, I should say, being dictated to us. You had to the idea that parents were losing control of their own children, that they were trying to create laws that allowed kids to get gender affirming care. And I know I keep repeating the same thing. I'm beating a dead horse, but it's an important issue. And the fact that they're trying to make things like this seem like it doesn't mean anything, there's something wrong with that. It is a big deal to sit up here and tell a parent that your kid can get gender affirming care without your permission and without your knowledge, there is something wrong with that. You're we now want the government, we now want to allow the government to take control, to parent our kids but they still want the parents to foot the bill for whatever mistakes and whatever bill expenses we have to occur because of the decisions that the government wants to make. I don't agree with that. And but the problem, and I voted against that just to now turn around and see that the right is now doing it themselves. When people speak out, Tucker Carlson, they used to love that man because everything he says supported putting them back in power. But the thing was, is Tucker Carlson was speaking for himself. He was speaking on the things that he believed, the things, and he's been consistent about it throughout. And then the government changed. They're not delivering on their promises. They're not they're not as transparent as they wanted us to believe they would be if we put them in power. And now, and I'll say the quiet part out loud. This Iran war, I truly believe, and prove to me I'm wrong, but I truly believe that a huge reason, a huge part for why we went to war with the Iranian government is because it was a distraction. This is the purpose for our administration. They went to war as a distraction from the Epstein list. I know, conspiracy theory and everything else, but we were starting to get answers. And we had enough people poking and prodding and wanting justice, not just for the victims that who are now adults, but the potential victims of kids that would not be protected if we don't take care of what's going on with this elite crowd and them feeling that it's okay to abuse children, to do whatever they want, and there's just no consequences for their actions. And that's not just within America. I think this deep state thing is actually a deep world thing because we're finding out there were people from all over the world that were involved with what's going on inside of this Epstein issue that we've got. But all we've ever heard the government try to do was to downplay it. Really think about it. I'm just, again, I'm not trying to tell you that I'm right. I'm just trying to open your mind to tell you that you need to stop listening to what the media and the government is feeding you. And we need to come together, set aside our personal agendas and differences, and unite so that we can make better decisions for this country because the media, the government, the deep state, these elites, they're only concerned about themselves. And if you remember, the proof is all out there if you're just willing to think about it and look back on everything that's been happening. When they promised to release the Epstein files, and that was a campaign promise by Donald Trump in order for us to vote for him to get in office. It was an important agenda then, and now all of a sudden it's not. When they got into office, you had the FBI director, Cash Patel, and they brought on Dan Bongino, who's since quit, and he won't say why he won't really say. He'll give you every other reason for why he quit, but I think he quit because he didn't agree with what he saw within, and he's trying to stay true to himself, and so he resigned peacefully and basically agreed not to spew off because he still has a podcast. He's agreed in back doors that he wasn't going to tell the public what he saw because that would get him in trouble. But he resigned for a reason, and it wasn't just so that he could get back to his family because that is a dedicated individual. I've never seen him as much time as he spends building that podcast. You mean to tell me that he's not sincere enough in his beliefs that he wouldn't actually still be there with Donald Trump and the FBI as assistant director or whatever his position was if he felt like he could make a difference, if he truly agreed with everything that was going on. But he quit. And I truly believe that part of the reason why he quit was because you had Cash Patel and them trying to tell us in the beginning that there's nothing to see. That now that we've gotten a hold of everything that the Democrats tried to trash regarding the Epstein files, there's just simply nothing for us to see. There's no evidence. And he's not just guilty. Pam Bondi should have been fired should have never actually been in office. Matt Gates should have been the next attorney general. Let's just put that out there. But they tried to convince us that there was nothing to see. And now they just want us to conveniently forget that they said that because of all the information that's come out since then. There actually was a number of things to see. And what's worse, this is something that I really just can't stand, mainly with the left, but also with the right. I can't stand when people get caught with their hand in the cookie jar and they just refuse to apologize about getting caught, about the lies that they told us that would cause us not to trust them anymore. So they just move on. They act like that never happened. You should, despite everything we've ever said, despite all the lies we've ever told you, let's just move on. It's old news now, and it's not, because these pedophiles are still in a position of power. Not only do they need to pay for what they've done, but we need to remove them from having any kind of impact on us as a people, on the ability for us as parents to raise our kids, on the ability on impacting what happens for the future of this company. I mean, excuse me, I'm sorry, of this country. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm getting super emotional about this whole thing. But that's what needs to happen. But all of a sudden, and there's still 3 million Epstein files that have not been released, at least. But they release a little bit of information, people start putting 2 and 2 together, names start coming out, and then guess what? We go to war. We go to war with Iran, and now nobody, again, you can tell me I'm wrong, and maybe I am, but what I do know is that nobody in the media and in the government is talking about the Epstein files anymore. They just want us to conveniently forget. I'm tired of all of these influencers. So, am I trying to be an influencer? In a way, but I'm not trying to do it by allowing someone to sponsor me, someone to pay me to influence you by how they want us to believe. I'm not here for that. If I can influence you in any way, it's the same way that I tell my kids that I want to influence them. I don't want to teach you what to think. I want to teach you how to think for yourself. Because that's the only way that we're going to right this ship and start getting on a much better page. You mad at me for, excuse me, you're mad at me for voting for Donald Trump? Well, what options did I have? That's what it comes down to, because, whether you like or dislike, whether I mean, even if Donald Trump was the most despicable man on the planet, one thing that I saw was that nothing, absolutely nothing that they tried to put on that man. They had to invent crimes to put on this man because they couldn't find him guilty of anything else. You can believe it or you cannot believe it. But the truth is, the 34 counts, the 34 felonies that he got convicted of, nobody else has ever been convicted of them, because in order for those crimes to have been a felony, there needs to be an underlying crime that he had to be guilty of as well. And the judge conveniently created a new definition for that law so the people could find a way to find him guilty. That is the truth. You don't want to believe me? Go and do the homework. But if Trump is such an evil man, if Trump really was on the Epstein files, for instance, again, it's just common sense and logic. Why wouldn't they have released that information when they had control of it? Why wouldn't they have gone ahead and pieced together all of the information they had on Donald Trump being a pedophile if that were the truth? I don't know what the truth is, but it's hard for me to believe that that man is guilty of what they're saying he's guilty of when they had the power to put that information and that evidence out there for us when Biden was in office, and somehow they just conveniently did not. Like, common sense, logic, facts, do the math. That's the problem that we're having with the people here in this country. Our education system is is as bad as it has ever been, but yet we still want to focus on pushing political agendas inside of our schools. Our kids need to be educated. So why don't we have a bigger focus on making kids smarter? It's because the dumber they are, the easier it is to control them. I mean, again, it's not that hard to see. And a lot of people will look at this message and probably turn the channel because they don't want to accept that truth. It just can't be that way. No way in the world is the government trying to manipulate us like that, even though we have evidence, we have Yeah, we have to look at the past. We can't just look at predictable patterns and make a an obvious conclude draw an obvious conclusion about what's going on. You don't care about making your kids smarter, but you want to push LGBTQ community agendas in our schools. We need to be more concerned about Black Lives Matter. And just so you know, just so you can see that I'm not trying to be biased, now we've got this whole thing after Charlie Kirk's assassination where his wife is trying to push this Club America inside of the schools. I think kids need to be taught a basic foundation of what's going on here in America. They need to know what it means to be a Democrat and a Republican and all that. They need an unbiased approach to teaching people what it means to be an American citizen. I think that that's necessary. I just don't think it needs to come from a biased group like Turning Point USA, which is on Donald Trump's nuts, or vice versa. I don't know who's on whose nuts right now, but somebody's on somebody's nuts, and we don't need them peddling that garbage into our school. I'm telling you right now, for whatever reason, we have our administration has an Israel first agenda, and they are now trying to push it on our kids just like everything else. If we can't get the adults to agree with what's going on, we're going to dumb down the kids so that they don't know the difference between right and wrong. They don't know what this country was built on. And if they don't know, then we can tell them whatever we want and they're going to accept it as truth. We're going to reward them for listening to us over listening to what's going on or what the Constitution tells us or the Declaration of Independence tells us. Dumb down the kids so they don't know. We may not get the answers we want right now, but we will. It'll be easier for us to control them in the future. And if you're okay with that, then you're probably a Democrat or a liberal. I'm just saying. I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with the right trying to now tell us who we need to put in jail because that individual doesn't agree with them or because that individual doesn't agree with the war and they decide to have a conversation with the opposite side. They want to label that man a traitor for having a conversation that was public information. They wanna censor that individual. And then you got so the plum face, what's her name? Lord, dude, come on. Tell me, let me pull this down real quick so you guys I don't why is that doing that, man? I don't it just pops up for no there we go. Let me see if I can bring her up because this woman is can I pull that? Look, okay. I'm just you can get mad at me for pointing out the obvious. I don't give a shit, bro. Is it this one? All right, this one. Look at it right here. Okay, I don't know if you guys. I don't know if you can see the hand, but the lady, not the first row, the second row, the lady all the way to the right. Her name's Laura Loomer. Sh- You guys ever seen the movie The Mask? The story about Rocky Dennis? Tell me she don't look like Rocky Dennis. I'll wait. Tell me, show. So again, this particular post is talking about this is MAGA now, right? Well, everybody on this, as far as I know, because I know that the top guy is Mark Levine, I know that's Bibi Netanyahu, and then I believe the guy in the bottom right hand corner, his name is Rabbi Shmuley. But these are all Israel First Agenda individuals. And if you go look at places like X and YouTube and everything else, these are the individuals that we're actually that America is actually listening to. These are the individuals that we're defending, taking their information as truth and facts. And that lady looks crazy as hell. If you saw her on the streets and she's spewing off whatever political nonsense she wants to spew to you, tell me you're not just going to walk off. You're not going to grab your kid's hand and say, "Let's get away from the crazy lady." But she's on X, and her voice seems to matter more than someone like a Tucker Carlson or a Candace Owens because she agrees with every last thing that Donald Trump and them are saying. We've got puppets all over again, and I did not vote for the Trump administration to basically say that I'm a traitor because I don't agree 100% with everything that that man has to say or his administration is trying to sell to us. We won't do that. And I don't. And to be perfectly honest with you, I don't know what the answer is. I'm not going to pretend it's. It, I don't know if I'm the right person to be speaking on these issues. What I do know is that if I don't do it, then who? Because you got the government and again the media, we'll just say the deep state. They've got everybody afraid to have an opinion. They got everybody afraid to speak up and tell you that, yeah, this is wrong. You're like, how are you trying to tell me that the economy is good when I still can barely pay my bills? I can still barely pay for eggs. I can still barely pay for gas. But you just want to keep telling me, just wait, it's coming. The benefits. I don't like. Why don't? Where are we the ones? Where are we the last ones to receive the benefits for the things that we voted for? We're the first ones to go to war. We're the first ones to die, but we're the last ones to actually see the benefits of an upcoming economy or benefit or privileges and stuff that we're supposed to receive and as a country. And I know a lot of people are upset on the left about what's going on with deportations and ICE. But again, you have to listen to the narrative. Everything negative that happened with the ICE happened it was isolated to a particular city, like, really think about it, it was isolated to a particular city. All of the problems, the 2 people that died, it happened in Minnesota. Look who's governing Minnesota, the same person that allowed this whole Somali billions of dollar corrupt scam thing to happen, who's hardcore left and has got nothing better to do than to try to prove that the right is just wrong about everything. Again, maybe I'm not saying it right, but it's just common sense. It's straight logic. The 2 people who died, I'm not gonna go into, the particulars about that whole thing, but it wasn't like they were just innocent bystanders on the side of the street and were doing absolutely nothing to warrant, ICE involvement. Do I necessarily agree that either of those individuals had to die? I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't I don't wish ill will on anybody, even my worst enemy, but there are consequences for your actions, and that's just the plain truth. Anyways, man, before I go further and stuff like that, I kind of want you guys to see my new little promotional ad for the righteous community. See what we're doing. We're gonna start doing giveaways with merchandise and stuff like that. And as we grow, we'll actually up the ante and stuff like that on maybe money giveaways to kind of help families and stuff in need. I don't know what well, like I said, I have been fortunate, I've been blessed, but we'll talk about that more in a little bit. For now, I just want you guys to check out my little ad. So here you go. America first starts with us. The government wants us divided, angry, distracted. Why? Because the divided people are easier to control and the people united are unstoppable. That's why we built Righteous, a community for real Americans who believe in common sense, strong values, and putting America first. No censorship, no nonsense, just honest conversations, real connections, and a place where your voice actually matters. And when you join, you're also supporting what we do here at The Mike Rock Show, bringing truth, perspective, and real talk across YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, and more. It's time to stop arguing and to start building. Join the movement, join the people. Go to righteous.com today. Tell me that wasn't legit. I just put that together today. But anyways, man, I wish I wish people were a lot more open to talking about these things. On our regular social media platforms. But I also understand that a lot of people are they're petrified, and I'm not saying that they don't have a right to be scared because you can lose your job for saying the wrong thing, the for saying the wrong thing, for speaking your mind about what you believe, and all of a sudden because your employer doesn't agree with it, then all of a sudden you're fired. You lost your job. Number one, you shouldn't be speaking about politics at work anyway, unless you're in an environment where that's okay. Right or left, you really just, unfortunately, we live in a world where you really can't share your opinions. But if somebody engages with you, no matter where you're at, you also shouldn't be losing your job because someone asked for your opinion. I can't stand. I'm gonna tell you what I can't stand. I go out here on the streets and I've got some liberal friends. Um, but I can't stand how easy it is for them to spew their nonsense, to basically just openly talk about how much they hate Trump. And I've seen on dating sites, yeah, I'm on dating sites, but I've seen on dating sites where like women feel like they need you to know that I don't mess with MAGA, I don't mess with Trumpsters and everything else. And you're free. Again, I really am an individual that is for free speech. I've got instead of trying to tell people what they can and cannot say, we need to start teaching our kids how to stand up for themselves and how not to be offended by every last thing, by the opinions of others. If it doesn't apply to you, then don't allow it to apply to you. Um, but they say whatever they want to say, and then you got someone like me that's not just gonna sit there and take it. And I'll tell people right off the bat, hey, look, maybe this isn't a conversation that you and I need to be having. Or I'll tell them, hey, look, you need to be you need I don't know if you've ever seen a video of mine. Maybe it's not the best video, but you should know that I'm not just going to sit here and let you say whatever you want to say that I don't agree with. If you feel like if you've got the nerve to put the conversation on the table, I feel like you should have the nerve to sit there and listen to the other side, not just spew off at the mouth and then just raise your gum, bump your gums and raise your voice, hoping that that's enough to keep that person from having a conversation with you. I can't stand it. I don't care who it's coming from. I can't stand that shit. Anyways, just to kind of explain to you guys how things are going to be working before we get off of here. We got everything I do is going to go through the righteous community. I want that community to grow more than the Mike Rock show itself. Whether it happens like that or not remains to be seen. But anything, if you want to support me, I'm going to ask that you join that community. We are going to be doing a lot of our live shows mainly on Rumble. Rumble's going to become the main channel for us to have these conversations on because it's the only place where I don't have to worry about things that I say or my opinions being censored. Everywhere else, don't get it twisted. Everywhere else, especially TikTok and YouTube, they are censoring just about everything you say that they consider anti-Semitic or offensive to the black community or offensive to just about anybody. And I don't think we can get anywhere if we're constantly being offended by everything someone says. I think we need to hear those conversations. We need to be open to any kind of truths that are in there, and then if it's just flat out bullshit, like a lot of these woke ideologies, then we need to be willing to speak out and say that's just wrong. And again, I understand. So a lot of you won't agree with what I just said. Oh, woke ideologies aren't bullshit. My opinion. I believe that they are, just like a lot of you believe that Christianity is bullshit. Whatever. But and again, in closing, anyways, back to the whole righteous community. I highly implore you. There's not a lot going on over there right now. I'm going to be adding content. I've brought my son on board, who's going to be helping me to administrate and moderate the community itself. And as you know, I've already paid to have it put on a stronger server. The next step later on is I'm going to pay to have it turned into an app for Google and Apple. I really believe in what we're doing. We've got a merchandise shop where if you don't want to subscribe and support us through monetary donations, that you can also go to the site. And if you see a cool shirt that, and I hope that these shirts aren't going to offend a whole lot of people or just not offend the majority. But I also understand that people get butthurt by every little thing that they hear nowadays. So I mean, it is what it is. I'm done. I'm done caring so much about people's feelings, and I really just, it's not that I don't care about people within my circle. It's just caring more about a person's feelings than the facts and what needs to be done. It isn't getting anything done in this country. And I know a lot of you guys, whether you want to admit it or not, you agree. I know a lot of people hear the information, they agree with the information, but for whatever reason, you're in a position to where you feel like you just can't say something about it. I'm going to leave you with this, man. The time for being silent is over. You have to, again, I don't care if you agree with me or not, but more and more people have to stand up and speak out and say, this is right or this is wrong. Because if we don't do that, we're going to allow the wrong people to assume control, to assume power over what's going on in our own lives. As much as you hate to see this, a lot of what's going on is our fault as a people, not the government's fault, because we allowed it to happen. We didn't think it was important enough to get involved. Unfortunately, politics is it's exactly where we need to be. We have to live our daily lives, but we do need to pay attention. I recently put out a video that I'm not going to keep getting involved in stuff and things that I can't control or that I'm the only one. Okay, that pertained to current events, things that are already happening. You don't have the power to change those things right now. What we do have the power to do, however, is who we vote for. We need to work towards getting a fair election process. Not all this nonsense about uh, hey, black people. I'm gonna just throw this out there. Yes, I got my black card, and you're more than welcome to check that out. But I'm gonna put this out there. How do you agree with them saying that we don't like the Save Act or requiring people to have an ID to vote? How do you allow yourself to be degraded to the point to where you actually believe that you aren't good enough to go out there and get an ID for yourself? That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. I don't know a single I'm not saying they don't exist, but I don't know a single black individual or a single woman that just could not go and get an ID card. It's the having a way to identify yourself is just it isn't against anybody that is an American citizen. It is to keep people who don't have the right to vote from voting. All that's about. But because we've had a lot of and it's proven, again, if you don't want to do the homework, that's on you. That's not on me. But it is proven that there are a lot of votes that have been casted that were not legal votes. Some people were dead. Some people, a lot of these people didn't live here in the country. It's there were a lot of votes that affected these elections. They have been rigged for a very, very long time. But that doesn't mean that we can't start making better decisions. Donald Trump said it himself when he got nominated this last time. You got to make the vote too big to rig. And if we start sticking together, I can promise you if we start listening to each other on the bigger issues instead of these smaller issues like I really care who you sleep with. I don't give a flying fornication. I don't care who you sleep with. I don't care I just don't. I don't. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter nowhere near as much. That's the one thing I can agree with them. The trans community is such a small community that it really should not matter and what's going on in the totality of things here in this country. It should not matter. The reason why it matters is because our government has made it matter. It isn't us. They've basically tried to basically take that minority few and create a much bigger issue than it needs to be so that we are continuously distracted about what they're doing. We have to keep we have to keep our eyes on the prize. We have to stop being distracted. We do need to get out there and vote. And again, if we stick together, I wouldn't do we can all get together and decide, you know what, just to fuck the system we're going to vote libertarian. Or we got this one individual that we just all decided to pencil in. Or we just all just so we can just Bud Light the shit out of everybody. You already can't afford most of the things that they're peddling to us anyway. So why not create a system where we can just say, you know what, I will go ahead and make the sacrifice and not buy that particular thing. We should not be screwing each other. If anything, we screw over the industries that don't give a shit about us. I care, even for the people that have just pushed me aside, decided that they can't be friends with me because I refuse to accept the fact that Donald Trump is a racist. I don't know Donald Trump. I don't hate Donald Trump. I refuse. If you were going to trial for something you did not do, would you rather have someone like me in your corner as a part of the jury who's actually going to listen to the evidence and refuse to convict you if there isn't enough information there to prove you guilty? Or do you just want a follower, people that's listening to everything in the news, and because the news says you're guilty, they're not going to give you a fighting chance, and they're just going to find you guilty because they were too lazy to do the homework, too lazy to get educated on the information, and they just thought it was easier. I get what I want on a personal level by sending you to prison for the rest of your life. Which person do you want in your corner? That's the type of people that we want to be, to do the investigations, to do the homework, to listen to both sides, and to try to come to a reasonable conclusion about the solutions that we need to at least explore in upcoming elections and other things. We're going to talk a little bit more about Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and why, simple reasons, very easy reasons why we should be listening to these individuals more. I don't know. I'll just go out of my way and say that they're human and they're not going to be right about everything that they say, but at least they're willing to do the math. At least they're not willing to be puppets and agree with everything that the right says just because they're right. It's ridiculous that we now live in a world where as soon as we put someone in power, everything that they promised us goes out the window, goes to shit. And here we are thinking we're fighting against censorship just to get it all over again from a new side. I did not vote for that. I'm not a MAGA puppet. I'm not a MAGA cult member. I'm not hanging off of Donald Trump's nuts. I'm trying to do what's right for this country before I die because because the impact I want to have is something that's going to create a better future for my kids. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. And again, if you haven't already, follow me here, follow me on Rumble, follow me everywhere you can because we're going to try to have some fun. I'm getting a little bit more comfortable behind this microphone. I'm on the road a lot. I drive trucks, if you don't already know. So I'm going to be trying to put up a little few scripted videos and stuff on my pages before we have our live stream on the weekends, man. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. Stay positive, make life happen for yourself, and yeah, stick with the program. We'll talk to you guys in a bit, man. Peace.